Hi everyone. After I did the King Street Brandy video, a couple people mentioned the gin cocktail you find in a couple places in Dishonored 2, so I thought I'd go ahead and make that as well. This is a lot less complicated than the brandy, very easy to make, and I've seen a few videos in the past that attempted it, including some that hilariously misinterpret the recipe. So here is the Dishonored 2 Gin Sling. You first encounter this drink at the Black Pony pub in Dunwall, and then a few places in Karnaca afterward. The recipe is on a blackboard and it reads: gin, 2 ounces, cane sugar, a small spoon, ice, a handful, nutmeg, fresh. One occurrence of this adds some specific steps. Pour the gin over the sugar and stir. Add the ice and grate nutmeg over the top. Serve in a short glass. We'll make it hot instead, if you prefer and if we like you. Now, I am not going to do this hot. That just sounds awful. I will do a couple variations on it though, so let's get started. The key to making this correctly is to use the right gin. You do not want to use modern London dry gin, or it will be undrinkable. You want to use something called Old Tom style gin. This is a bit maltier and a bit sweeter, and is more like the type of gin that was popular in the 19th century. And it would have been the gin used when a lot of those old classic cocktails were invented. It often has a golden yellow color, but not always. This one, Heyman's, is clear, but this was literally the only Old Tom gin I could find in this whole town, so this is what we'll use. Next thing is the sugar. You can use white table sugar, but it'll have a bit more character if you use raw cane sugar. Demerara sugar or turbinado sugar, something like that. The main difference is that white sugar is crystallized at least twice to remove all color, all molasses, and pretty much all flavor. This sugar is only crystallized once, so it retains a lot of that cane flavor. Finally, the nutmeg. Please, buy the outsider. Use fresh whole nutmeg, not pre-ground. You're really just putting powdered wood on your drink if you do that. If you're a fan of John Townsend's channel, I'm sure you'll agree. So first we'll add our gin, 2 ounces. Easy enough. The sugar I'll grind just a bit since the crystals are pretty big and we want to get at least a little to dissolve. We'll use a teaspoon, but it's really to taste, whatever you want to use. Today we're used to perfectly crafted, homogeneous cocktails that are the same from the first sip to the last. But in the past, people didn't really have a problem with bits of stuff or sugar sitting at the bottom of their glass. Call me crazy, but I swear I find a pair of chopsticks the most useful for stirring cocktails. You can see some of the color dissolves into the gin before the sugar does. You can use a muddler at this point too if you like. Now the ice. It's more visually appealing, I guess, to crack the ice into small bits, but I think cubes should work just as well. In all the professional cocktail videos, they crack the ice in slow motion, it cracks perfectly, and it looks very dramatic. In reality, or in my reality anyway, it's very messy. Give it another quick stir, and then grate the nutmeg on top. Also messy, but that's okay. And there we have it. Pretty simple as far as cocktails go, but originally cocktails were invented in order to cover up the awful taste of poor quality liquor, so it definitely does its job. Okay, let's have a taste. Yep, that's definitely sweeter than modern gin. And the sugar just kicks it up a notch. The nutmeg really does a lot of heavy lifting in this. It adds a whole other layer of aroma in addition to the botanicals of the gin. Pretty tasty. This works as a summer cocktail, but with the nutmeg it could be good in the fall too. You could use cinnamon instead if you wanted. Now, one thing you'll notice with a drink like this is it'll get sweeter as the sugar dissolves and as you get closer to the bottom of the glass. You'll also start to get those gritty sugar crystals crunching between your teeth. You can almost hear the cavities growing. If that's not something you're into, I can totally understand. So there is an alternative way to make this. Starting over with our cocktail, we can use syrup instead of solid sugar. This is just equal parts sugar and water boiled until every crystal dissolves and then cooled into a thick syrup. I cheated a bit and made this in the microwave since I just needed a small amount. But the brown color, the molasses, will dissolve out first and leave the white sugar behind, so to get the right syrup consistency, you want to make sure all the solid crystals are completely dissolved. Starting over again, another 2 ounces. We'll add half an ounce of syrup to the gin, then proceed as before. You can see it's much more colored this time, since it's all dissolving. Stir, ice, and nutmeg. Now we have a homogeneous version of the same cocktail. Oh yes, that's very much sweeter at the beginning. So you might want to experiment to get the right amount of sugar you want. But that's another way to make it. I don't recommend trying to make a hot version of this. If you overheat it, you'll boil out the alcohol, and then you have a bunch of flammable vapor floating around you. Not really an issue with stuff like cooking wine, but with high-proof liquor, well, you all know what Orban rum does. Anyway, that's how I do the Gin Sling from Dishonored 2. I hope you found this informative, and thanks for watching.